Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Writers Podcast. Here they are, Phil Stacy, Matt Williams, Salem News, Nick Giannino, Gloucester Times, and we're talking North Shore sports. And gentlemen, out today as we speak on Monday are the pairings for the TD Garden for the state championship hockey games on Sunday. We'll get those posted, but you have Marblehead playing in a 3 o'clock game, St. John's Prep in a 5:30 game. And also St. Mary's of Lynn girls hockey playing at the 9 a.m. game on Sunday morning. Well, Phil, I think let's take it by the top division. Number one, St. John's Prep in D1, the number one seed, ending up in the championship game and taking on number 11 Winchester. So they've made a move in the tournament. So you may want to go back and talk about the last couple of prep games or whatever, or take a look at this preview game. I don't know where you want to start.
Yeah, so I mean, the prep has played certainly Sunday in the state semifinal against Zavarian. That was one of their better efforts of the season. Completely dominated from the start. 3 goals in the first period. They only allowed 13 shots total while putting 45 on net. I mean, that's in the Division I state semifinals. 45 shots on net is pretty good. So they dominated Zavarian, beat them for the 3rd time this season, which again is not easy to do. But they not only beat them for the 3rd time, but beat them by 4 goals for the 3rd time this season. And as I said, pretty emphatic fashion. Second straight shutout for AJ Farisi. They had shut out Hingham the game before that in a tight game. That was 3-0, but it was really 1-0 until Johnny Ty had an empty netter. And then Jake Vanna added one with about 26 seconds left for the Eagles. In fact, Johnny Ty's got back-to-back games with empty netters now that I think of it. But yeah, the prep is rolling right now. I think a lot of people would have looked at that game, Bill, yesterday as the de facto state championship. I certainly don't think that the St. John's Prep coaches or players feel that way at all. But from the outside, to a lot of people, it looked like, well, you have these 2 Catholic Conference teams, number 1 in the state versus number 4. The winner's going to get number 11 Winchester. Well, that'll be easy. Again, I know that they don't think that way over on 72 Spring Street in Danvers. They look at Winchester as a team that upset Arlington High School, that upset Catholic Memorial, which I think a lot of people thought was going to come out of that side of the bracket to face either St. John's or Zavarian. They've been playing much better in the second half of the year. I wouldn't say they have nothing to lose because, you get to the finals, you play to win, but there's certainly going to be a very clear underdog, if not a big underdog. And there is an amount of pressure on St. John's as the number 1 seed, as the Catholic entry, to win that game. But I truly feel, though, if and I say this having not seen Winchester, so I don't have a basis on what to go for on how they play. But talking to a couple people about them, and I haven't seen the prep now 12 or 13 times this season in person. I'm pretty confident in saying that if the prep brings its game, their speed, their physicality, going to the net, getting a good goaltending, getting timely goals, I would have to think they would be crowned state champions at the end of the night. Anything can happen, but if I were a betting man, I would bet on St. John's Prep winning.
Mm-hmm. Well, Marblehead, the number 6 seed in D3, is in the state championship game against Nauset, the number 1 seed.
Yeah,
and that's the 3 o'clock game on Sunday, St. Patrick's Day.
Yep.
Bill, will that be a distraction for you guys writing sports, being on St. Patrick's Day and stuff? No, I don't think so.
You can have his Guinness right next to his laptop. Corned beef and cabbage catered at the garden.
Yeah.
No, we have a big, I call it like my second family, not my in-laws, but we have a big party. It works out very well that it's on Saturday this year.
Okay.
So yeah, that works out.
Oh, phew.
Priorities.
Nice.
Priorities.
Yeah. All right.
No, Marblehead. That's I said to Matt Williams last night, this literally couldn't have worked out any better for us. They're playing back-to-back games on Sunday at the Garden. Marblehead is almost like they're in the shoes that Winchester is in against St. John's Prep. It's Nauset. Nauset is the number 1 seed. They're supposed to be a powerhouse. They've only lost 1 game. And I asked Mark Marfione, the Marblehead coach, after their win against Shawsheen, which again had been 23-1. They were the number 2 seed. They'd won 23 straight games since losing their season opener to Winthrop by a goal. They'd blown everybody else away. They'd scored 131 goals, I think it was, and only given up something crazy like, I don't know if it was 29 to 32 or something. They had far outscored their opponents. But Marblehead was coming off of a good win against number 3 Situate on the road down in Cape Cod last week, 2-1. They won that game. They were completely confident going into the Shawsheen game. They took an early lead on a Kyle Hart goal. Excuse me. Shawsheen tied it up, but then Hogan Sedke, the elite defenseman from Marblehead, really threaded the needle right up ice. Couple zone pass, stretch pass to sophomore London McDonald for the bomb, and he broke in and scored 2-1. Leo Burge did the rest, shutting down the fort defensively and goal for Marblehead. They win 2-1, and I was like, is this an upset? Do you look at this like, oh, you're beating teams that maybe you shouldn't? And Mark Maffioni was like, not at all. We look at it the complete opposite. Like, the talent we have here, the team structure we have here, the mentality we have in this room, we expect to win the whole thing. And not just like win this game. They expected to win the state title. And, that's one thing to say, but it's another thing to believe that and get your kids to buy into it. And I completely feel like being around that Marblehead team that they do believe it. And they're not awed by Nauset's record. Hey, it's another team with skates on their feet and helmets on their heads and sticks in their hands. And let's play 45 minutes and see who comes out better. I mean, the way Marblehead's going now, they're 14-1-1 in their last 16 games. They're playing as well as any team in the state right now. So I would say, yes, Nauset has a gaudy record. And there's probably some crossover here from Marblehead, and I only remember because it took me over 3 hours to get there last year, but Marblehead went to Nauset in the Division 2, was it? Division 2? Is Marblehead Division 2 lacrosse, Willie? I think? Yeah, Division 2, right? Division 2 state quarterfinals and beat Nauset at Nauset, which is like the last school on Cape Cod. There's no high school after Nauset on Cape Cod. So that was a great win, upset win from Marblehead, easy for me to say. In the quarterfinals, I know some of the Marblehead lacrosse kids play hockey, and I'm sure some of their kids also play hockey. So there'll be some familiar faces on either side of the ice. But yeah, I like Marblehead's chances. I think they have a great shot, the way that they're playing, the confidence that they're playing with, and just the belief they have in their coaches and their system to get it done no matter who they play.
Willie, I'm sure you want to weigh in on either one of those two games. We can bounce around a little bit, I'm sure. But
I mean, I just think it's interesting. You got a couple teams here. It's nice. I mean, I think it's a little curious that St. Mary's and NDA's at 9 a.m. You got the number 1 and 2 seed, the two best teams in the state, two Mocky teams. I don't think if St. John's was playing Xaverian, it would be at 9 a.m. So I question that a little bit. I think it's really cool that St. Mary's is there again with a new goaltender out of Danvers, Gianna Tringali. She had a great postseason run. They lost their best defenseman from Swampscott, Casey Litwin, to a broken leg. The last week of the regular season, they lost to NDA in that last week of the regular season. So now they get a chance to play them again. I think that's going to be really interesting for the North Shore fans. A lot of kids at St. Mary's from the various towns that we deal with, couple Danvers, couple Swampscott, a lot of girls from Melrose. Their best player, of course, is from Everett, Bella Freitas. She's only 14 years old, if you can believe it. She's still on the 14U team for her club, and she scores a game winner in overtime. I think had the game winner in the quarterfinal too. That was in regulation, but still just a great scorer for them. And I think these are two very similar teams, very heavy, very responsible, very tough to score on. So I think that's going to be a really good girls game there for the Division I championship. And, I hope a lot of people get to see it. I don't know if these things are going to be on TV or streamed or whatever. Hopefully they will be like the Super Bowls were, because obviously, a lot of people going for the 3 o'clock and the 5 o'clock game aren't going to be there at 9 a.m. So, hopefully there's a way to broadcast these games that would be obviously ideal for all the fans. In terms of Marblehead and St. John's, hopefully they're good games. I think Phil's right. There's sort of opposite sides of the coin there where Nauset's probably a prohibitive favorite based on their seed and record, and Marblehead is not not a low seed. I mean, number 6, like that's pretty good. There've been 6 seeds that have won state titles in the various sports and stuff. So, I think that's not like, super one-sided. Whereas Winchester obviously coming from a different league. 11's not that low a seed either, but there is just such a Herculean gap between the Catholic Conference and a lot of the others. I mean, Winchester certainly wouldn't have been a Super 8 team if such a tournament existed, whereas St. John's would have been the number 1 seed in that too. So I think that's where the gap there, kind of comes into play a little bit. Kind of interesting. Like it says, we're like Phil mentioned, they're kind of two sides of the same coin. One team is a prohibitive favorite, and one team is a prohibitive underdog, and it'll be interesting to see how they sort of navigate those two roles.
Willie, did you have a chance to see that overtime goal by Bella Freitas last night?
I did, to be honest with you, I did. I don't want to impugn anybody. I read some descriptions of how great it was, and then I watched the video and I said, geez, like, goalie want to close the wickets a little bit. Like, oh, maybe she was screened. I know it was a really quick shot, but to be honest with you, I was expecting it to look, a little filthier based on some of the descriptions. I was like, geez, like, if it's my goalie, it's like, you could kind of want you to have that one. If I'm being
seeing
totally
it in
honest.
real time, it looked like I thought she used the defenseman as a screen perfectly.
So
And
that makes
that's
sense.
what I'm
I mean,
guessing happened, that the goaltender was, momentarily blocked by the defenseman's legs or whatever. But that's how it looked to me in real time. Yeah.
I saw that you probably had. I saw the angle of the video probably just wasn't great then. That is sort of what I suspected was the case because of the position of the defenseman there. But yeah, that makes a lot. That makes a lot of sense that from a different angle, just a smart play to get the D out of position there on the rush, because was that 4-on-4, right? It was the first overtime.
Yeah, that was still the first overtime because it was scoreless. I got there start of the third period, I think, yesterday in Framingham, and I want to say St. Mary's scored about 6 minutes into the third, but then Archie's tied it up pretty quickly right after that, maybe like 2 minutes later.
Yeah, it wasn't a long lead. That's correct.
No, it wasn't. So yeah, that overtime was pretty exciting, back and forth. Both teams generated some rushes, and it was good stuff.
And similar thing with Winchester, Archie's, they didn't even have a 500 record. They were 9-10-2, I think, going into the tournament, and scored a couple of upsets, just to get there. So that was kind of interesting too. You don't often see that, a team with a sub 500 record there getting through to the Final Four.
I got to say too, they had some pretty sweet helmets. They had like bright gold helmets, like almost like those Notre Dame type helmets.
Mm-hmm.
For hockey, and they looked great on the navy blue uniforms.
Matt, I have a follow-up for you. It was that Notre Dame team, the one that St. Mary's is playing Sunday, is the one that eliminated Peabody 2-0. So put that into context for us a little bit more, if you could, on this St. Mary's matchup, because Peabody and St. Mary's, did they play during the regular season this year?
2-0. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Groundhog Day. It's the same game. Very, Peabody carried moments of play, didn't score, gave up a second period goal. I want to say St. Mary's scored maybe similar fashion. ND scored in the second and then again in the third. St. Mary's either scored both its goals in the third, or one in the second, one in the third. So if you're Peabody, you're saying these teams are the same, right? Just switch the helmets. I mean, the way the game played out was very similar. It was Groundhog Day, that's why I think this is going to be a really good matchup. Both teams very heavy, very smart, very, very, very strong on the puck, very good at clearing out bodies in front of the net. Don't turn the puck over too much. I mean, from what I've seen, I did not see a player on Notre Dame Hingham that stood out to me the way that Freitas from St. Mary's stands out. I mean, I think, you don't have to be a hockey Krishna to see that she's clearly the best player on the ice. So nobody on NDA jumped off the page to me quite like that. Again, I saw them once. I've seen St. Mary's probably 3 or 4 times, but, nonetheless, that would kind of be the one X factor to me, is that the teams are extraordinarily similar, but St. Mary's has that singular talent that can potentially go get a goal when you need one. And in a tight game, sometimes that one wrist shot from the circle that you can put inside a mail slot, to have that ability can make the difference in a tight game like that. And we discussed this last year. It's a little bit crazy. St. Mary's hasn't won a state title in like 13 years or something. They get to the Garden last year, they get upset by Shrewsbury,
I
and
didn't realize that. Wow. Jeez, I didn't know that.
lost a ton of talent off that team last year. Really, only two big time returning players from that team last year. So for them to be at the Garden with the opportunity to win it is a great credit to their team culture. Established by Frank Paliuca and his assistants, but obviously also established by those leaders like Litwin and Trongali that we talked about. I believe they only have 3 seniors on the roster. So to get back there is big, but they obviously want to win it. I mean, again, like you think of them as royalty. They're traditionally a top 3, 4 seed every year, but they haven't actually won it in quite a while for them. So it would be a pretty big accomplishment if they can finish it off. But it is a tall task. I mean, Notre Dame is very, very, very good. I would say they're not as good or as dominant as their lacrosse team, which kind of destroys everybody that they play, right? They won the state title, I think, and every game was like a 10-goal game. So that's not a knock on the hockey team as much as it is a compliment of the lacrosse team down there at Notre Dame.
All right, I'm gonna shift topics here. Even though our buddy here, Nick Giannino, with that nice fleece, looks like he's dressed for hockey. Let's shift to basketball. And Nick, 2 teams in the area, well, 3 teams in the area went out over the weekend. Lynn Tech, Newburyport, Manchester Essex. Manchester Essex is in your coverage area. I had the pleasure of seeing all 3 of those teams this year. Really enjoyed watching all 3 of them, and especially really that Manchester Essex team. I just enjoy watching that team. With First and I'm blanking out here now. I wasn't expected to go this direction. Eddie Horaeus, obviously, yeah. Just as starters, but it's a great complement of players with those 2 outstanding athletes. But Nick, you were at their final game. Unbelievable. They lost by 1 point, 41-40 in the semifinal game.
Yeah, it was a devastating loss to say the least. I thought for large portions of the game they outplayed Millbury. They got off to a great start. Neither team was great offensively. Both, Manchester's prided itself on defense all year, and Millbury is kind of the same way. They both had a lot of low scoring games this season, competitive, and the defense on both sides was just amazing. Millbury with their man-to-man and Manchester Essex with the matchup zone. Nobody was getting good looks, easy looks in the first half, but Manchester was able to grab an 8-point lead at the half. They held Millbury to 17 points in that first half, and it looked like, if they kept it up, they'd be in really good shape. But that third quarter, they were held scoreless, which I can't remember any game in the playoffs ever seeing that happen for an entire 8 minutes to not have a single point. And Millbury really took control of the game in that third quarter. They went on ended up being, I think, a 15-0 run. They outscored them 15-0 in the quarter and flipped an 8-point deficit into a 7 or 8 point lead. And Manchester really had to claw back. They were down, I think it was a 5-point game with about a minute and a half left. And a kid from Millbury, probably their best player, Kenny Donnelly, a great shooter, hit some other big shots throughout the game, but they had him bottled up at the end of the shot clock. And this kid, Donnelly, was right near half court and let loose a heave from just inside half court and swished home. So that was kind of a backbreaker. Put Millbury up 8 with 90 seconds left, and you're thinking, wow, that was probably the dagger. But give the Hornets credit; they fought back. Cade First was tremendous down the stretch. I think he scored 6 straight points, and then assisted on a 3 from Jake Chow to bring them within 1 point. There was under 10 seconds to go at that point in the game, and they had to foul. They went for the quick steal, couldn't get it, so they had to foul. Millbury goes to the line, misses both free throws. Horaeus grabs the rebound. I think it was his 18th rebound of the game. And they get the ball in First's hand. They didn't call a timeout. He dribbles up the court, gets to his spot, pulls up for a mid-range jumper, and it just missed, just hit the mark. would have given them the win. But, you know, talking with them after the game, that's the shot they wanted. You know, ball in the hands of your best player. He got you to that point, and he was having a good game. You know, they tried a bunch of different looks on him, and he still managed to get 19 points, which was a game high. You know, in a 40-point, 42-41 game, 19 points is quite a bit. So he was terrific. Just didn't get the game-winning shot to go, and Millbury walks away with the win. But what a season for them to be held scoreless in a full quarter in the second half and be able to come back from an 8-point deficit in the final minute and a half. I mean, it was really remarkable that they even got that close and gave themselves a chance. So Millbury's moving on, but what a season for the Hornets. You know, 21-2, I think, was their final record. Another Cape Ann League title, went undefeated in the Cape Ann League. First got his second straight Cal Player of the Year award. Eddie Horaeus was, you know, a monster. Like I said, he had 18 boards in the final game, but he couldn't get anything to go at the rim. Really struggled down low, you know, offensively. He was great on defense. He was great on the boards, but if he gets a couple of those layups to go, maybe it's a different game. But I think both sides had their share of misses. You know, in a game like that, I can't imagine the shooting percentages were that high, 42-41. So, yeah. Millbury's moving on to face Wareham, the top seed. I know Manchester would have loved to crack at them. I think Wareham's beat Millbury twice this year already. Close games, both of them, but they're quite the powerhouse. Obviously, defending state champs. So, yeah, sad that the hoop season is over here on the North Shore. But credit to Millbury, they got the job done in a defensive battle. And you know, Manchester will be back. They're going to lose first and Horaeus, but they got this kid, Graham Lewis, a freshman guard who actually got some minutes in the Millbury game. I think he slides in and tries to take over that first role, you know, as one of their leading scorers. They got John Horaeus, Eddie's younger brother, coming up. He's a sophomore. He had a great season. So they'll have some pieces, but this was a special team, and just too bad they came 1 point shy of a Final Four.
I can't believe that scenario where you get outscored 15-0 and in that quarter, or that 15-0 run, I should say, right? And that
15-0 quarter, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, 15-0 quarter, and you still have a chance to win in a 41-40 game, right? It was 41-40, right?
42-41.
42-41, my mistake. Okay.
Yeah,
but anyway,
crazy. I mean, their defense was just as good. They just couldn't get a couple buckets in that third quarter, and you know, they gave themselves a chance. I mean, down 8 with 90 seconds left, it looked really bleak for them, and to only lose by 1 and have a shot at the buzzer, yeah, it was pretty impressive stuff for them to rally like that.
And we did mention the boys going out, Newburyport losing to Charlestown in the D3 tournament. Now, Charlestown was winning D1 titles, right, a few years ago.
Yeah, I thought looking at looking at the tweets and stuff from that game, Newburyport really battled, and I saw them play, you know, a couple times this year. I was really impressed with them. They're a good, you know, defensive team, but Charlestown just seemed like on a little bit, you know, of that next level. But Newburyport battled, right? Those are the two last teams left in the Cal and Georgetown, or was Georgetown lost to Lynn Tech and then Lynn Tech?
Yeah. I saw that game too. I was impressed with Georgetown too. They're not what you'd call a muscular kind of team. I wouldn't call them that. I don't know if you've seen them, but man, they play hard and they're skilled. And that was a very good game against Lynn Tech, and a great atmosphere. I just want to touch on the girls very quickly, girls hoops, because Pentucket and Newburyport both went out, both obviously outstanding seasons. Newburyport losing to number 1 Foxborough, and St. Mary's has had a little run here, winning 3 tournament games. They're playing Foxborough Tuesday night down at UMass Boston in the state semifinal game. And they played very well of late, very good defense. But this Foxborough team, I'm hearing a lot of college players on this team. This is a great D3, if you will. And I think they were in Division II a year ago as well, with the realignments and different.
They won it all in D2, yeah. Moved down to D3, and now they're even more dominant. Would they beat Pentucket by 30? And Pentucket was a 20-win team. I mean, I heard that Pentucket hung with them in the first half, and then the Foxborough kind of opened it up. But yeah, that team's a wagon.
I wanted to just mention too, Bill, the Salem High boys, who I had a chance to see last Wednesday. They were the last team in our Salem News area to still be playing. And they played at number 2 Old Rochester, you know, 2+ hour bus ride down to Mattapoisett. The two freshmen that are the key offensive cogs for Salem in Elian Rodriguez and Jordan Maxson. And they fell behind early. Small gym, think like the Fenwick or the St. Mary's gym, small, tightly packed, huge crowd. Some nerves early for Salem, but they fought back. They got it tied a couple times. It was tied again with about 5 minutes to go before Old Rochester went on an 8-0 run to kind of pull away for good. But Salem really acquitted themselves well, and I'd like to think that their graduating seniors played huge roles this year on the team. Guys like Eddie Butler and Devontae Azuna and Corey Grimes, guys like that. You hope that the freshmen that I mentioned, the real talented freshmen, Jordan Maxson and Rodriguez, both come back next year. You got Rocco Ryan back next year.
Yeah.
There's a chance for them to be very good again next year. And I thought they acquitted themselves nicely. And I know we've mentioned it on here before, but she's 21 straight tournament appearances under Tommy Doyle. That really says something for Salem High boys basketball.
I don't know if you might have mentioned Corey Grimes. I think you might have, but Corey Grimes, another senior from on that Salem team.
I did,
obviously.
yeah.
You did. Okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, and that Old Rochester team dominated their next game, and they're in the Final Four. So
yeah, I think they had another home game that Friday night against, was it Dover Sherborne?
Dover Sherborne, yeah.
Yeah,
they beat them by like 18 points or something.
Yeah, they definitely had some talented players. I thought Salem played really well defensively the night that I saw them.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And going on the road doing that's not too bad. You don't want to go out, but that was a tall task to achieve.
Should mention Bill Rockport too. I think they played on that same night. Got their first playoff win in 14 years this year. Went out to Drury and North Adams. 3+ hour bus ride, and obviously, that took a toll. They were definitely sluggish out of the gate. I think they had 6 points in the first quarter, but they really grinded and battled back into that game, gave themselves a chance. I think they lost by 6 points to Drury, but what a season for the Vikings, to get back to that point, get back in the playoffs. 13 wins for them this year. Just a fun team to watch, fun team to cover, and who knows? They're going to graduate a few kids. Who knows when they'll be back at that point, with such a small school that they have, but they will return some kids, and this could be like a momentum swinging year for the program, so to speak. So fun covering them this year. They just came up a little short in the Division 5 tourney.
Yeah, my hardcourt moles tell me, Nick, that one of the team's better players was playing with the flu that night. Tried to battle through it. Did what he could, but it was not to make excuses, obviously, but that's what I heard.
No, and it's funny you say that, because Phil, the coach Whitley, did tell me that a couple of their players came down with the flu pretty much right after that game. One of them, I guess, was battling it during the game, but I think three of their starters came down with it, so they probably wouldn't have been able to play in that next round anyway, which really would have been a killer. Yeah.
No flu delays, are there? No, I guess not.
I don't know.
Wow, good stuff, and really good. I think a good overview of what's happened here in the last, 4 or 5 days, whatever, in the tournament. Looking ahead to Sunday's hockey, and I think in the part I did mention that St. Mary's is playing Foxborough Tuesday night in girls basketball at UMass Boston. Gentlemen, anything else you guys want to touch on? Any notes from the sports world in our next few minutes here?
Well, you could talk about Alex Jackson's latest happenings.
Oh, sure, yeah. All-American at the New Balance at the Nike Nationals in New York, finished 5th place in the shot put. So that's the championship division. As we always remember to remind folks, all the nationals have 2 divisions, championship and emerging elite. And the championship is the elite of the elite with really high qualifying standards. And the emerging elite tends to have qualifying standards that are like more in line with your state meets, for kids that are just looking for a taste of the big time to compete and all that kind of stuff. So championship level, I mean, to finish 5th in the shot put and get a All-American nod, pretty big time stuff there for Alex. We had a lot of athletes competing in Boston at the New Balance event. St. John's Prep set a school record, I believe, in the sprint medley relay. They finished 11th or 12th in the championship division, so not quite all American, but pretty darn good. There were some other situations. I think Danvers had a really nice run on the 4x mile relay. Leo Sheriff from Beverly, he set a new Beverly High indoor record in the 60-meter hurdles in the championship division. He finished 85th, which doesn't sound great, but there were 240 athletes competing, boys, in the hurdles. So that's the top third, right? Or close to the top third. So when you put that in perspective, 85th is actually pretty darn good. He might not have gone through to the next round. In the sprints, they typically have several heats. You gotta get top 3 or 4 in your heat and then break some ties. So they cut it down from 200 something to probably they were either 16 or 32 that went on to the next rounds. But still, 80th out of 240. That's pretty legit stuff. So great job there by Leo. He was the D2 state champion in the hurdles. There were some others, not as many as we normally have, but those were kind of the highlights from the track national meets. I think that Gloucester and Manchester sent a couple of kids to New York, right, Nick? I don't know how they did.
Yeah. So they sent the Gloucester sent the sprint medley relay team, the 2 senior twin brothers, Colby and Bryce Rochford, and junior Dylan Smith, and a freshman Seamus Linehan, and they did well. They held their own. I think they ran a 344, 342 in the sprint medley. Didn't place, but definitely performed admirably. And both Bryce and Colby, the 2 seniors who ran the back 2 legs, the 400 and the 800 meter portion of the race, set personal best there. So terrific careers for those 2. And then the other big one, I think, was Nate Gardner, who from Manchester, Essex, competed in the New Balance one in Boston. It's funny, I was looking for the results. I couldn't find it anywhere on the Nike results. That's because he was at the New Balance one. Who knew they had 2 nationals? This was news to me, but Willie had to inform me on that one. But he did very well. He finished 7th in his, I think it was the 60-meter hurdles, 8.75 seconds, if I remember correctly. So great meet for him. And then there was a couple others that also went out to New York, to the Armory, to compete in the Nike Nationals from Gloucester. I think it was Meg Hurd, who's actually from Manchester, and then Ailey, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Spencer, Aili. She also competed. So yeah, good stuff to wrap up the indoor season for those guys, and we're on to the spring.
So we have the Nike and the New Balance Nationals. I was covering the Skechers Nationals.
There you go.
That's good.
So the slip-on Skechers Nationals. Yeah, I've been watching those ads. All right. That's a lot of good stuff there. I don't know where else. I think we probably should just stop about this point, because you guys are finishing very strong here. It's like we're at a track meet here. You guys are handing off here to one another here and coming across the line right now at full speed. So, gentlemen,
if I'm on your relay team, you're in trouble. That's for sure.
Yeah, you'll bring up the front or the rear, whatever. Yeah, no, but I think you get it all right in the sports information relay, if you will. You're number 1, Phil.
Oh wow!
There you go, gentlemen. Thank you so much, and we will talk again soon.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.